In the heart of Rodeo Drive, where the sun gilded the storefronts of America's most prestigious shopping strip, Elise Harrington stood behind the polished counter of Lumiere, her kingdom of high fashion and exclusivity. At 45, with her razor-sharp bob and perpetually pursed lips, she had spent 20 years cultivating her reputation as Beverly Hills' most formidable boutique manager. The walls of Lumiere were adorned with photographs of Elise alongside A-list celebrities who had graced her store, all of them impeccably dressed, all of them having passed her stringent aesthetic judgment. Rain pattered against the boutique's windows, an unusual sight in Los Angeles that seemed to keep the regular flow of wealthy clients at bay. Elise despised slow days. They reminded her that even her carefully curated world was subject to forces beyond her control. The bell above the door chimed softly as a woman entered, shaking raindrops from a simple black umbrella. Elise's gaze flickered over the newcomer, mid-50s perhaps, with dark hair tucked under a baseball cap, minimal makeup, and wearing faded jeans, worn sneakers, and an oversized gray sweater that hung limply from her slender frame. Elise's perfectly penciled eyebrows arched slightly. This was not Lumiere material. The woman smiled warmly as she approached the nearest rack of designer dresses, each priced higher than what most Americans earned in a month. Her fingers lightly brushed the fabric of a crimson Valentino with reverence. "Beautiful," the woman murmured, her voice husky and pleasant. Elise straightened her spine and glided across the polished marble floor, her Louboutins clicking sharply with each step. "May I help you?" she asked, her tone making it clear that the question was more challenge than offer. The woman looked up, dark eyes crinkling at the corners as she smiled. "Just browsing for now, thank you. My niece has a special event coming up, and I wanted to get her something memorable." Elise's gaze swept over the woman once more, this time more deliberately. "Of course," she replied coolly. "Our pieces start at $5,000. The more exclusive collections," she nodded toward the crimson dress, "begin at $12,000. If the woman was intimidated by the prices, she didn't show it. "That seems reasonable for craftsmanship of this quality," she replied, continuing to examine the dress with genuine interest. Something about the woman's calm self-assurance irritated Elise. People who couldn't afford Lumiere typically showed their discomfort, nervous glances at price tags, fidgeting, or overcompensating with loud declarations of their importance. This woman displayed none of those signs, yet everything about her screamed ordinary. "The Valentino would overwhelm someone with a smaller presence," Elise remarked, the pause carefully calculated. "Perhaps I could show you something more suitable for your niece? We do have a small selection of cocktail dresses that might be more appropriate." The woman looked up, her expression thoughtful rather than offended. "You know, you might be right. She's only 19, and while she's confident, I wouldn't want her to feel uncomfortable. What would you recommend?" Elise led her to a separate section where the least expensive items in the store hung, still carrying price tags that would make most shoppers blanch. As the woman examined these options with the same careful consideration she'd given the Valentino, Elise's phone buzzed with a text from her assistant. "Traffic nightmare. Running 15 minutes late. Sorry." Elise pursed her lips in annoyance. Now she was stuck alone with this woman who clearly couldn't afford anything in the store. "What size is your niece?" Elise asked, her tone growing more impatient. "She's a 4, I believe. About my height, but more athletic." Elise pulled a simple black dress from the rack. "This might work. It's one of our more accessible pieces." The woman took the dress, examining the stitching with what appeared to be knowledgeable eyes. "The craftsmanship is beautiful, but I was hoping for something with more color. 19 should be vibrant, don't you think?" Before Elise could respond, the bell chimed again. Through the glass door came a tall man in a simple black jacket and jeans, his longish dark hair damp from the rain. He removed his sunglasses, revealing kind eyes that immediately found the woman browsing the dresses. "Sorry I'm late," he said, his voice low and gentle. "Traffic was worse than I expected." The woman's face lit up. "No worries. I'm just getting started." Elise froze, her eyes darting between the two figures. There was something familiar about both of them, something that tugged at her memory. The man approached, extending his hand to Elise. "Hi, I'm Keanu. I believe my friend Sandra called ahead about a private shopping appointment. The floor seemed to drop from beneath Elise's perfectly polished shoes. Sandra Bullock, Keanu Reeves. The realization hit her like a physical blow, and suddenly the woman's face, those dark, expressive eyes, that distinctive smile, clicked into place. I wasn't informed of any appointment. Elise stammered, her composure cracking for perhaps the first time in her professional career. Sandra Bullock, the woman Elise had just condescended to, smiled kindly. That's completely fine. I decided to come in on a whim when I saw the rain had cleared a bit. We're in no hurry. Keanu moved to stand beside Sandra, his presence both calm and commanding. Sandra's niece is graduating from UCLA next month. We're looking for something special. Elise felt heat rising to her cheeks as she recalled every dismissive word, every judgmental glance she had directed at Sandra Bullock, one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses, worth millions, and known for her philanthropic work as much as her films. Of course, Mr. Reeves, Ms. Bullock. I'd be delighted to assist you. Please, let me show you our exclusive collection. Elise gestured toward the premium section she had initially steered Sandra away from. Keanu's expression remained pleasant, but something shifted in his eyes. Actually, I think we were doing fine where we were. Right, Sandy? Sandra nodded, still examining the rack of accessible dresses. Absolutely. I was just explaining that I wanted something with more color for Genevieve. Elise's professional smile felt brittle on her face. Let me bring you some options with more vibrant colors. Would you like some champagne while you browse? Water would be fine. Sandra replied. As Elise retreated to the small kitchenette behind the counter, her hands trembled slightly. 20 years of catering to celebrity clientele, and she had never made such a catastrophic misjudgment. She had treated Sandra Bullock, whose films had grossed billions worldwide, like an unwelcome intruder. When she returned with 2 bottles of Avion on a silver tray, Sandra and Keanu were examining a midnight blue gown with subtle beading. This is beautiful, Sandra was saying. The color would be perfect with her complexion. Keanu nodded, his expression thoughtful. It's elegant without being overwhelming. I can have it delivered to your home this afternoon, Ms. Bullock, Elise offered, her voice overly bright. And of course, we would be happy to handle any alterations. Sandra took the water bottle with a smile of thanks. That's very kind, but I'd like to look around a bit more before deciding. For the next 30 minutes, Elise followed the pair around the boutique, growing increasingly uncomfortable as she watched Sandra handle each garment with genuine appreciation. The actress asked knowledgeable questions about fabric composition and construction techniques that revealed she understood fashion far better than Elise had assumed. Keanu remained by Sandra's side, offering occasional comments, but mostly supporting his friend with his presence. There was an easy familiarity between them, the comfort of a decades-long friendship that had weathered Hollywood's storms. When Sandra finally selected 3 dresses to consider, including the midnight blue gown, Elise led them to the private fitting area, where plush velvet chairs faced a small runway. As she arranged the dresses in the fitting room, she could hear Sandra and Keanu talking quietly. What do you think of the boutique? Keanu asked. It's beautiful, Sandra replied, although I've had warmer welcomes. Elise's hands froze on the hanger. They knew, of course they knew. She had made her disdain painfully obvious before recognizing them. When she emerged from the fitting room, Keanu was standing by the champagne display, examining a bottle with casual interest. I understand you've been managing Lumiere for quite some time, he said, his tone conversational, but his eyes penetrating. Yes, 20 years next month, Elise replied, striving for her usual confidence. That's impressive dedication. You must have seen a lot of changes in the fashion world during that time. Indeed, trends come and go, but true style remains constant. It was one of her standard lines, one that usually impressed clients. Keanu nodded thoughtfully. I've always found it interesting how people define true style. Some think it's about wearing the right labels or having the right look. He set the champagne bottle down gently. But in my experience, true style has more to do with how you treat people than what you wear. The statement hung in the air between them, gentle yet unmistakably pointed. Before Elise could formulate a response, Sandra emerged from the fitting room wearing the midnight blue gown, which draped perfectly over her slender frame. Despite her simple hair and minimal makeup, she looked stunning, a reminder that her beauty had never relied on artifice. "What do you think?" she asked, turning slowly. "Absolutely perfect," Keanu said warmly. Elise murmured her agreement, though her professional assessment was unnecessary. Sandra didn't look to her for validation. As Sandra returned to try on the second dress, the boutique door opened again, admitting a group of 3 women laden with shopping bags from neighboring stores. They spotted Keanu immediately, their expressions shifting from surprise to excitement. Elise moved to intercept them, preparing to explain that the store was temporarily closed for a private appointment, but Keanu was already approaching them with a warm smile. "Hello," he greeted them kindly. The women, tourists from their accents and casual attire, were visibly starstruck but managed to express their admiration without becoming overwhelming. Keanu listened attentively as one explained they were celebrating her sister's 40th birthday with a weekend in Los Angeles. "That's wonderful," he said. "Would you like a photo?" Their delight was palpable as Keanu posed for selfies with each woman, taking the time to ask their names and wish the birthday celebrant a special day. Elise watched in astonishment. Here was one of Hollywood's biggest stars, worth hundreds of millions, taking time for tourists while shopping with his equally famous friend. When Sandra emerged in the second dress, a vibrant emerald that complemented her olive complexion, she immediately noticed the visitors and walked over to join the conversation, as comfortable in her designer gown as she had been in her worn jeans. "Is it your birthday?" she asked the woman Keanu had indicated. "How wonderful. You picked a perfect weekend to visit. The rain should clear by tomorrow." For the next several minutes, Elise stood frozen in disbelief as Sandra and Keanu chatted with the tourists as though they were old friends, never once signaling that they were interrupting an important shopping trip. When the women finally departed, floating on air from their unexpected celebrity encounter, Sandra turned to Elise with a warm smile. "Sorry about that. Where were we?" Elise cleared her throat. "The emerald gown looks exquisite on you, Ms. Bullock. Though it would be for your niece, correct?" "Yes, though I'm starting to think it might be too mature for her. What do you think, Keanu?" He considered the dress thoughtfully. "It's beautiful on you, but I think the blue would be better for Genevieve. It has a youthful energy while still being sophisticated." Sandra nodded. "You're right. Let me try the last one, and then I think we'll go with the blue." As she disappeared back into the fitting room, Keanu turned to examine a display of men's accessories near the counter. Elise followed, determined to salvage what she could of this disaster. "Mr. Reeves, I want to apologize for any misunderstanding earlier. Had I known Ms. Bullock was coming in today—" "That's the thing, isn't it?" Keanu interrupted gently. "The way we treat people when we think they're not important reveals far more about our character than how we treat the people we're trying to impress." The observation was delivered without malice, but its accuracy made Elise flinch. "At Lumiere, we strive to provide exceptional service to all our clients," she said stiffly. Keanu picked up a simple silver tie clip. "You know, I've been coming to this neighborhood for decades. I've seen stores come and go. The ones that last aren't necessarily the ones with the most exclusive merchandise or the most famous clients." He looked directly at Elise. "They're the ones where people feel valued when they walk through the door, regardless of what they're wearing or who they are." Before Elise could respond, Sandra returned in a ruby-red sheath dress that was simpler than the others but no less elegant. "This one's lovely too," she said, "but I think the blue is still my favorite." Keanu agreed, and Sandra returned to change back into her casual clothes. When she emerged, Elise was prepared with the paperwork for the midnight blue gown, along with their finest garment bag. "We'll deliver it this afternoon, Ms. Bullock," she said, "and please know that Lumiere would be honored to dress both you and your niece for future events." Sandra nodded politely as she handed over her credit card. "Thank you." As Elise processed the substantial purchase, Keanu wandered to the front of the store, his attention caught by something in the window display. Sandra joined him, and they conversed quietly, occasionally laughing at some shared joke. When the transaction was complete, Elise returned Sandra's card along with the boutique's most exclusive shopping bag, containing a handwritten thank you note, hastily composed while Sandra was changing, and a sample of their signature perfume. Ms. Bullock, Mr. Reeves, thank you for choosing Lumiere today. We hope to see you again soon. Sandra accepted the bag with a gracious nod. Thank you for your assistance. They were nearly at the door when Keanu turned back. One more thing, he said, returning to the counter. I'd like to purchase gift cards for those women we met earlier, $1,000 each. Elise blinked in surprise. Of course, Mr. Reeves. As she prepared the gift cards, Sandra watched with a gentle smile. That's very thoughtful, Keanu. He shrugged slightly. Everyone deserves to feel special on their birthday. Once the gift cards were ready, Keanu asked for the women's names to be written on each envelope. Could you hold these for them? I'll let them know they can pick them up tomorrow. Certainly, Mr. Reeves. Elise placed the envelopes in the store safe, her mind reeling at this unexpected gesture of generosity. As they prepared to leave once more, the door opened to admit Elise's assistant, finally arriving after being delayed by traffic. The young woman froze in the doorway, her eyes widening as she recognized the two celebrities. Oh my God, she whispered. Keanu smiled kindly. Hello. I'm so sorry I'm late, Miss Harrington, the assistant said, tearing her gaze away from the stars to address her boss. The traffic was terrible because of the rain and... It's fine, Victoria, Elise interrupted, her voice tight. Mr. Reeves and Ms. Bullock were just leaving. Sandra approached the flustered assistant with a warm smile. Don't worry about it. Rain in L.A. brings everything to a standstill, doesn't it? Victoria nodded, visibly trying to maintain her professional composure. It really does. It's an honor to meet you both. I've been a huge fan since Speed. Sandra and Keanu exchanged amused glances at the mention of the film that had first paired them together decades earlier. That's very kind, Sandra said. You've got a beautiful store here. Thank you. Can I help you with anything else today? Victoria asked eagerly. Keanu shook his head. We're all set, thanks to your manager's help. He turned to Elise, his expression unreadable. It's been enlightening. With a last gracious smile from Sandra and a nod from Keanu, they departed, stepping back into the rainy afternoon. As the door closed behind them, Victoria turned to Elise with wide eyes. Oh my God, was that really them? Were they shopping here? What did they buy? Were they nice? Elise stared through the window as the two stars walked down Rodeo Drive. Sandra once again huddled under her simple black umbrella, Keanu with his collar turned up against the rain. Despite their casual appearance and lack of entourage, heads turned as they passed. There was something about them, an authenticity that no designer label could provide. Miss Harrington? Victoria prompted when Elise didn't respond. They were. Elise hesitated, still watching as the famous pair disappeared from view. They were a reminder of something I'd forgotten. What's that? Elise turned away from the window, her perfectly composed expression momentarily vulnerable. That kindness is the only true luxury that matters. Later that evening, as Elise locked up the boutique, her phone buzzed with a notification. Opening her Instagram, she saw that Keanu Reeves had posted a photo, a rare occurrence for the notoriously private actor. It showed the three tourists from earlier, beaming alongside him and Sandra in Lumiere's elegant interior. The caption read, "Met these wonderful women celebrating a birthday today. Remember, everyone deserves to feel special, no matter where they go. Be excellent to each other." The post had already accumulated hundreds of thousands of likes and comments, many praising the star's kindness and accessibility. Among the comments, Elise noticed one from Sandra Bullock's official account. Highlight of our day. Happy birthday, Megan. P.S. The blue dress is wrapped and ready for Genevieve. Thanks for helping me choose K. Elise stood motionless on the sidewalk, the neon signs of Rodeo Drive reflecting in the rain-slicked street. 20 years of cultivating exclusivity, of judging people by their appearance, of creating an atmosphere of intimidation rather than welcome. And in the space of one afternoon, Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves had shown her the emptiness of it all. Their fame and fortune far exceeded anything Elise could imagine. Yet they had treated everyone they encountered, from Elise herself to the star-struck tourists, with the same genuine warmth and respect. They had no need to prove their worth or assert their status. As she walked to her car, Elise made a quiet resolution. Tomorrow, Lumiere would begin a transformation. not of its merchandise or decor, but of its heart. There would be other celebrities, other wealthy clients, other important people coming through those doors. But perhaps, Elise thought, it was time to recognize that importance wasn't determined by the label on someone's clothes or the numbers in their bank account. It was determined by how they made others feel when they walked into a room or a boutique on a rainy day in Beverly Hills. And that was a luxury no money could buy.